What is going on, Rangers Nation? Welcome back to the channel, and if you are not subscribed yet, do it right now because today we are diving deep into the biggest, most jaw-dropping story to hit the New York Rangers in months, and I promise you this one is going to leave your head spinning. Grab your coffee, sit down, because everything, and I mean everything, is changing on Broadway, and nobody, absolutely nobody, saw the full picture of this coming. The Rangers have just turned the page on an era, and fans across New York are absolutely losing their minds over what went down. So let's not waste a single second and get right into it. Okay, so let's set the scene first because context matters here. This past season, the 2025-26 campaign was brutal. There is no sugarcoating it. The New York Rangers finished dead last in the entire Eastern Conference. Not near the bottom. Not fighting for a wild card spot. Last. Out of the playoffs for the second consecutive season after being one of the most dangerous teams in the league just 2 years before. This is the same franchise that made the Eastern Conference Finals in both 2022 and 2024. The same team that won the President's Trophy. And they collapsed so hard, so fast, that Rangers GM Chris Drury sat down in January and wrote a letter to the fans. A literal open letter, warning them that a full retool was coming and that it was going to hurt. He said it plainly. This rebuild, this retooling, quote, may mean saying goodbye to players that have brought us and our fans great moments over the years. Fans read that letter and they knew. They felt it in their bones. The hammer was about to fall. And fall it did. First, Drury traded Artemi Panarin, one of the most beloved players to ever pull on a Rangers sweater, to the Los Angeles Kings. That one hurt. That one genuinely hurt the fan base in a deep way. Panarin was everything. He was the heart of this team for years, and watching him go west was painful. But even after that bombshell, fans still held on to one thing. One player. One guy who represented the grit and identity of this Rangers team through all the chaos. Vincent Trocheck. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Vinny Trocheck is gone too. The Utah Mammoth acquired Vincent Trocheck from the Rangers on July 1, 2026. The very first day of NHL free agency. Let me tell you what the return was because this is where the debate explodes. In exchange for Trocheck, the Rangers received defenseman Sean Durzi, prospect Cole Bedoin, and a third-round pick in the 2027 draft. Now before you throw your remote at the screen, and I know some of you want to, let me walk you through every piece of this because it is more layered than it looks on the surface. First, let's talk about who Vincent Trocheck is, because this man was not just some average center skating around Madison Square Garden. Trocheck scored 26 goals and 59 points in the 2024-25 campaign, then followed it with 16 goals and 53 points in 67 games this year, and he did that while battling a lung infection earlier in the season. The man played through illness. He ground it out, and it gets better or worse depending on how you feel about this trade. Trocheck scored 3 assists in 6 games at the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, where he took home a gold medal with Team USA and was part of the penalty-killing unit that was a perfect 17-4-17 throughout the games. A gold medalist. A guy who wins face-offs at nearly 57%. A guy who hit 193 opponents this past season. Leading the entire Rangers team, and this is who they moved. You understand why the fan base is reacting the way they are. Trocheck had been one of the Rangers' most productive players in what was a difficult 2025-26 season for New York. Despite missing time with an upper body injury, he still amassed 53 points in 67 games. And the move comes after Rangers GM Chris Drury wrote in a January letter to fans that the upcoming roster retool may mean saying goodbye to players that have brought great moments over the years. In other words, Drury told you. He told you this was coming. The question is whether what he got back was worth it. Now let's talk Sean Durzi first, because the Rangers came out of this deal with an immediate NHL roster piece, and that matters. Durzi is regarded as an offensive-minded puck mover who can play on both sides and slot onto the second power play unit. And he is signed through the next 2 seasons at $6 million per year. Head coach Mike Sullivan said publicly after the season ended that he hoped the Rangers would add a puck-moving defenseman in the offseason. Well, they got one. A righty shooter who can quarterback a power play, something this team has desperately needed. Now Durzi's numbers with Utah were not exactly earth-shattering. He played through injury, only getting into 60 games last year and putting up 27 points. But in a new system, healthy, with something to prove? This is a guy who has legitimate top 4 upside, and the Rangers believe he can slot right in. Yahoo Sports. Then there's Cole Bedoin, and this is the piece of the trade that has people actually getting excited, if they're willing to look past the emotion of losing Trocheck. Bedoin is a 6'2", 209-pound center who is coming off an incredible OHL season, where he recorded 33 goals and 55 assists with a +40+- rating in just 54 games. He then went and put up 10 goals and 19 assists in 15 playoff games, helping his team reach the OHL Championship Series. And internationally, Bedoin was a point-per-game player for Canada during the 2026 IIHF World Junior Championship, tallying 3 goals and 4 assists in 7 games in a bronze medal finish. This kid is a physical beast, 6'2", over 200 pounds, outstanding hockey sense, hard to play against, and the expectation is that he will turn pro immediately and report to the Rangers AHL affiliate in Hartford. He is not a project. He is a near-ready NHL talent, and the Rangers needed that pipeline restock badly. But here is where it gets complicated, because Rangers fans are split right down the middle on this. Some are applauding Drury for finally getting the retool rolling, for bringing in a defensive piece and a high-end prospect while clearing Trocheck's $5.625 million cap hit. Others are livid, absolutely livid. They look at this and say, you traded a gold medal winner, a cornerstone veteran, a guy who could do it all, and you got back a defenseman who has had injury problems and a prospect who hasn't played a single NHL game. And you know what? That frustration is valid. That emotion is real. When you have watched this team dissolve over the last 2 seasons, when you watched Panarin leave, when you watched this once fearsome roster crumble, and now you see Trocheck getting packed off to Utah, it stings. And the Rangers had been trying to move Trocheck for months. Trocheck had a 12-team no-trade list, and while he initially preferred to stay on the East Coast for family reasons, he was ultimately convinced to make the move to Utah. That is not nothing. He had leverage. He had options. And the fact that the Rangers had to navigate his no-trade protections while also dealing with a crowded center market. Dylan Larkin requested a trade from Detroit around the same time, which diluted the market, made this whole process more complicated than it looks. Drury had a high asking price for Trocheck, and things got more complicated once Dylan Larkin requested a trade-off of the Detroit Red Wings, adding another big name to the center market. So getting Durzi and Bedoin in that environment? There are analysts who say that is actually a solid return given the circumstances. Bleacher Report Blue Line Station. But here's what I really want you to focus on, because this Trocheck trade doesn't exist in a vacuum. This is part of a sweeping, aggressive, and yes, controversial overhaul of the entire Rangers organization. Before Trocheck, they had already been busy. The Rangers acquired forward Pavel Dorofeyev from the Vegas Golden Knights for a first and third-round pick in this year's draft and a conditional first-round selection in 2028. They drafted Albert Smits with the 5th overall pick in the 2026 NHL draft, a hulking 6'3", 205-pound defenseman who starred for Latvia at the World Juniors and is expected to sign his entry-level contract and join the organization immediately. They brought in goalie Jonas Korpisalo from the Bruins to back up Igor Shesterkin. They signed defenseman William Trudeau. They acquired Pavel Dorofeyev to inject youth and speed into the forward group. The Rangers are moving fast, and they are moving with purpose. Forever Blue Shirts, forever Blue Shirts. After finishing last in the Eastern Conference this past season and missing the Stanley Cup playoffs 2 years in a row, the Rangers look to add as much future NHL talent as possible at the draft and in free agency. That is the mission statement. That is what Chris Drury is operating on. And whether you love it or hate it, the direction is clear. They are tearing it down to build it back up, and they want to do it quickly. Forever Blue Shirts. Now what does this mean for next season? The 2026-27 Rangers are going to look almost unrecognizable compared to what this team looked like even 18 months ago. You've still got Igor Shesterkin in net, arguably the best goaltender in the world, and Adam Fox anchoring the blue line. Mika Zibanejad is still there, but surrounding them is a completely different cast. Younger, faster, and yes, more uncertain. This is the gamble. This is the bet that Drury is making. And the fan base is watching every single move with a microscope. The Blue Shirts nation is divided. Some fans are furious. Some are cautiously optimistic. Some are heartbroken. And honestly, all of those reactions are completely understandable, because this is exactly what a painful, necessary retool feels like from the inside. It's not comfortable. It's not supposed to be. But if Drury gets this right, if Bedoin becomes the center he looks like he can be, if Dursey clicks in New York, if Smits develops into a franchise defenseman, if Dorofeyev lives up to his potential, then this summer of upheaval will look like genius in 3 years. But that's the thing about rebuilds on Broadway. The stakes are always higher. The pressure is always louder. And the fans, the most passionate fan base in the NHL, are watching every move, every trade, every signing, and they will let you know exactly how they feel about it. The revolt you see online, the debates exploding on every Rangers forum and comment section, that is what being a Rangers fan feels like right now. Raw, emotional, and absolutely, undeniably invested. So there it is, Rangers Nation, everything you need to know about the biggest shakeup in recent franchise history.